On October 30th, 2025, a man walked into a beach resort in Thailand. He thought he was invisible. He thought distance would protect him. He thought the world's most advanced governments couldn't find him. Within 1 week, FBI agents were watching his every move. Within 9 days, he would be arrested. What he didn't know was that the intelligence agencies of 24 nations had been hunting him for months. What he didn't know was that his every keystroke had been monitored. What he didn't know was that his capture would expose one of the largest coordinated espionage operations in modern history. This is the story of Denis Obresko, a 35-year-old Russian hacker who became the digital architect of Russia's assault on NATO, a man who stole from the Pentagon, who infiltrated the Defense Department, who read classified military communications in real time, who accessed the emails of intelligence officers, who discovered the names of CIA assets, and who thought a luxury resort on a tropical island would be his sanctuary. He was catastrophically wrong. This is how they caught him. This is what he stole. And this is why his arrest changed everything. To understand Denis Obresko, you have to understand what he did, not just who he is, but the scale of his criminal operation. This wasn't a lone hacker. This wasn't someone stealing credit card numbers for personal profit. This was industrial-scale espionage orchestrated by the Russian state. This was war conducted in the digital realm. Starting in April 2024, Denis Obresko became part of a hacking organization that the intelligence community calls Void Blizzard, also known as Laundry Bear, a unit of Russian state intelligence designed with a single mission: steal NATO secrets. Between April 2024 and November 2025, Void Blizzard attacked government agencies, defense contractors, military installations, transportation systems, healthcare networks, and intelligence agencies across North America and Europe. More than 30 major compromises, hundreds of attempted intrusions, thousands of stolen documents. They broke into the Pentagon's email systems. They read classified military communications. They stole information about weapons systems. They accessed strategic planning documents. They discovered the identities of intelligence officers. They read real-time discussions about military operations. And in many cases, they did all of this without being detected for weeks or months. NATO member states were targeted systematically: the Netherlands, Germany, France, Belgium, Poland, Canada, the United States, Ukraine, every single one compromised. Every single one telling a story of digital invasion, of classified information stolen, of government communications exposed, of intelligence operations compromised. The methodology was almost mundane. Void Blizzard purchased stolen credentials from criminal marketplaces on the dark web. Millions of usernames and passwords, stolen from previous breaches, traded like currency in the underground economy. They bought them in bulk, cheap, thousands of credentials for a few $1,000s. Then came the password spray attack. A technique so simple it seems almost impossible that it works. Obresko's team would take thousands of stolen usernames and try them against target systems using common passwords, passwords that hackers had found in previous breaches. P@SE Sword 123, Admin 1234, Welcome 2024. The odds were in their favor. Statistically, some would work, and statistically, they did. Once they got into one account, they had the keys to the kingdom: Microsoft Exchange, the email system used by virtually every government agency on Earth; SharePoint, the document storage system where classified files are kept; Teams, where sensitive conversations happen in real time. With a single correct password, Denis Obresko's team had access to weapons procurement information, intelligence assessments, strategic plans, the names of intelligence operatives, information about weapons shipments to Ukraine, the technical specifications of military equipment, and classified communications between allied governments. Then they automated the theft. Computers don't get tired. They don't have consciences. They just execute orders. Within minutes, gigabytes of classified information flowed from secure government servers to Russian intelligence operatives. Emails by the thousands, documents by the hundreds, all of it falling into the hands of Moscow. This wasn't freelance hacking. This wasn't criminals working for personal profit. This was the Russian state, operating through a unit of military intelligence, conducting a sustained assault on NATO's most sensitive secrets. Denis Obrezko wasn't working alone. He was one soldier in Russia's digital army. But in May 2025, the hunt changed. That's when Dutch intelligence detected what was happening. They saw Void Blizzard's fingerprints on their systems. They traced the attacks. They documented the scope. And on the 26th of May 2025, they went public. They exposed Void Blizzard to the world, and when NATO realized the scale of the breach, the manhunt intensified beyond anything Obrezko could have imagined. Every intelligence agency in the Western world suddenly had Denis Obrezko's name in their database. Every border checkpoint had his face. Every airport had his flight manifest flagged. He was the most wanted hacker on Earth, and he knew it. That's when he made his critical mistake. He ran. Denis Obrezko was born in Stavropol, a city in southwestern Russia. A place of about 400,000 people, oil industry, agriculture, ordinariness. But by September 2025, Stavropol was becoming dangerous for him. Russian intelligence agencies weren't protecting their operatives, they were preparing to distance themselves. In the world of state-sponsored espionage, when an operative becomes a liability, he becomes expendable. So on October 30th, 2025, Denis Obrezko made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He purchased a ticket, one way, to Thailand, specifically to Phuket, a destination chosen carefully. A place where a Russian operative might disappear into the tourist anonymity, where Western law enforcement might be slower to react, where he could wait for international pressure to ease. What Obrezko didn't understand was that the intelligence world had evolved. In the modern era, there are no truly safe places. Information travels at the speed of light. Communications are intercepted. Movements are tracked. Financial transactions leave digital trails. The moment his name appeared on a passenger manifest, alarms went off at FBI headquarters. The agency had been waiting for exactly this moment. An operative on the run makes mistakes. A fugitive becomes visible. A man in motion can be caught. They immediately contacted Thailand's Cybercrime Investigation Bureau. Within hours, Thai intelligence was mobilizing. They had Obrezko's flight number, his arrival time, his hotel, his room number. For 6 days, Denis Obrezko lived in his hotel room overlooking the Andaman Sea. He thought he was safe. He thought the tropical distance would protect him. He thought the surveillance apparatus of NATO intelligence agencies couldn't find him on a beach resort island in Southeast Asia. During those 6 days, Thai law enforcement watched his every movement. They documented his patterns. They prepared their operation. They waited for the moment of maximum vulnerability. That moment came on November 6, 2025. November 6th, early morning. A decision was made, a warrant was executed, and the hunt came to an end. 3:42 a.m., November 6, 2025, Phuket, Thailand. Outside a luxury resort hotel. Thai police officers gather in tactical formation. They wear black tactical gear, they carry equipment, they have their orders. FBI agents stand nearby, observing, coordinating, ensuring that the operation meets American standards. They all understand what's about to happen. They understand what's at stake. For months, intelligence agencies from 24 countries had been hunting Denis Obrezko. Tonight, it ends. Tonight, the digital ghost becomes a flesh-and-blood prisoner. The operation takes 90 seconds from start to finish. 90 seconds that change history. The officers move quietly through the hotel corridor. Room 347. They know this room. They've analyzed it. They've planned every detail. The door is secured. A warrant is in place. At precisely 3:44 a.m., they move. Denis Obrezko wakes to armed police officers in his hotel room. His hands are restrained. His room is surrounded. His escape routes are cut off. There is no negotiation. There is no dramatic confrontation. Just the sudden collapse of his world into the reality of arrest. In his room, they find everything. 3 laptops, multiple mobile phones, a cryptocurrency hardware wallet, documents, equipment, the physical manifestation of his digital crimes. Everything is photographed. Everything is cataloged. Everything becomes evidence. Within 30 minutes, Denis Obrezko is transported from the hotel. Within 2 hours, he's in Bangkok, in custody at the Cybercrime Investigation Bureau. By dawn, international news agencies are reporting his arrest. By noon, the story has spread across the world. The digital ghost has been caught. But the story doesn't end at arrest, because Denis Obrezko represents just one piece of a much larger puzzle. His capture is a victory, yes. But it also raises urgent questions. How much damage was done? What classified information was stolen? How many assets were compromised? How many other operatives remain active? These questions would dominate the intelligence world for months to come. Within 24 hours, the Pentagon launched a comprehensive damage assessment. The State Department convened emergency meetings. NATO held crisis consultations. The scope of what had been stolen began to emerge. And what emerged was a nightmare scenario for Western intelligence agencies. The damage assessment took weeks. Intelligence analysts worked around the clock to determine exactly what Denis Obrezko had stolen. What they discovered was shocking in its scope. Military procurement plans, strategic defense assessments, information about weapons systems, NATO technical specifications, Ukrainian military intelligence, the names of intelligence officers, in some cases, the addresses of intelligence officers and their families, information about weapons shipments to Ukraine that were supposed to be secret, the complete communications records of sensitive diplomatic discussions. For intelligence agencies, the implications were catastrophic. Officers whose identities had been compromised now faced security risks. Military operations that were supposed to be secret were potentially exposed. Weapons systems that were supposed to be unknown to Russia were now catalogued by Russian intelligence. Ukrainian forces that were operating with intelligence advantage suddenly had that advantage compromised. The damage rippled outward in ways that are still being assessed. Denis Obrezko was formally charged in Thailand under the extradition treaty between the United States and Thailand. The Thai government approved his extradition to the United States. But this is where the story becomes complicated. Because Denis Obrezko was not just a criminal defendant. He was a Russian citizen. And Russia, which had ordered the attacks he carried out, suddenly had diplomatic interests in his case. Russian diplomats visited Obrezko in his Bangkok holding cell. Russian government officials made statements about consular access. Russia's foreign ministry issued diplomatic protests. The Russian government, which had employed Obrezko to steal classified information, now portrayed him as a persecuted victim of American aggression. It was a calculated maneuver designed to delay extradition proceedings, potentially protect Obrezko, and maintain plausible deniability about Void Blizzard's operations. But the evidence against Obrezko was overwhelming. His laptop contained communications with his handlers in Russia. His digital wallets showed suspicious financial activity consistent with Russian intelligence payments. His technical methods perfectly matched known Void Blizzard operations. The American case against him was airtight. In December 2025, Thai courts approved the extradition. Denis Obrezko would stand trial in the United States. But here's what's important to understand. Denis Obrezko's arrest represented not a victory, but a partial interruption in an ongoing war. Because Void Blizzard didn't stop operating when Obrezko was captured. Other members of the group continued their missions. Other operatives continued stealing classified information. The organization adapted. It persisted. It continued its assault on NATO. Microsoft threat researchers continued monitoring Void Blizzard's activity after Obrezko's arrest. And what they discovered was deeply troubling. The group was still operational. They were still attacking NATO government agencies. They were still stealing classified information. They were still conducting espionage missions for the Russian state. Denis Obrezko's capture had failed to significantly disrupt their operations. This is the real horror of the Denis Obrezko story. He wasn't an outlier. He wasn't a rogue operator. He was representative of an entire ecosystem of Russian cyber warfare. An ecosystem that had successfully infiltrated NATO's most sensitive systems. An ecosystem that remains active and dangerous. An ecosystem that continues to steal classified information while governments attempt to respond. Denis Obrezko's story is part of a much larger narrative. It's the story of modern warfare. Not conventional warfare with tanks and jets and explosions, but cyber warfare. Information warfare. A sustained campaign to steal secrets, undermine confidence in institutions, and gain strategic advantage in a conflict that will define the 21st century. The methods used by Void Blizzard aren't sophisticated in a technical sense. They don't use zero-day exploits, previously unknown security vulnerabilities. They don't use advanced, persistent threats that most people associate with state-sponsored hacking. They use relatively simple techniques: stolen credentials, password spray attacks, exploitation of common cloud APIs. The sophistication isn't technical, it's operational. It's coordination, it's persistence, it's willingness to operate at massive scale, and it's devastatingly effective. After Obresko's arrest, governments across the Western world began implementing emergency defensive measures. The Pentagon launched a comprehensive review of its email security. NATO convened emergency cybersecurity summits. The European Union announced new funding for digital defense infrastructure. The United States created new task forces dedicated specifically to Russian cyber operations. Congress approved billions of dollars in new cybersecurity funding. All of this triggered by the arrest of one man in a Thai resort hotel. But here's the critical point that intelligence officials were forced to confront. They were losing the cyber war. Despite having the world's most advanced technology, despite employing thousands of cybersecurity experts, despite spending tens of billions of dollars on digital defense, Russian state-sponsored hackers were still winning. They were still getting through. They were still stealing classified information. This represented a fundamental shift in how intelligence agencies understand national security. In the 20th century, national security meant defending against physical threats: armies, tanks, aircraft, nuclear weapons. But in the 21st century, national security increasingly means defending against digital threats, against hackers, against stolen credentials, against someone sitting at a computer in Russia with access to the most sensitive secrets of the most powerful nations on Earth. Denis Obresko represents a new kind of threat. He's not a saboteur who destroys infrastructure. He's not a spy who sells secrets for money. He's a state-sponsored operative whose job is to steal information on behalf of a government. His skill set is technical. His motivation is governmental. His impact is profound. And there are dozens, perhaps hundreds more like him, operating right now, stealing secrets from NATO governments. The Denis Obresko case forced Western governments to accept an uncomfortable truth. In the modern world, national security depends on digital security, and digital security is losing. As Denis Obresko awaits trial in an American prison, many questions remain unanswered. Will he cooperate with intelligence agencies in exchange for a reduced sentence? Will he provide information about other members of Void Blizzard? Will he reveal the identities of his handlers in Russian intelligence? Will he detail the scope of operations that extend beyond what we already know? But perhaps the more pressing question is this: how many other Denis Obreskos are out there right now? How many Russian operatives are currently accessing NATO government systems? How many classified documents have been stolen beyond what we've detected? How many intelligence officers' identities have been compromised? How many weapons systems' technical specifications have been stolen? How many military plans are now known to Russian intelligence? The Obresko case served as a wake-up call. A reminder that national security in the 21st century is primarily a digital challenge. That governments can have walls and borders and military forces, but if their digital systems are compromised, none of those physical defenses matter. The secrets of the Pentagon can be stolen from a laptop. The communications of the State Department can be read by someone on another continent. The strategic plans of NATO can be downloaded by someone in Russia. Denis Obresko came to Thailand seeking refuge. Instead, he found the international law enforcement apparatus of NATO governments. His capture was a victory in a larger war that is far from over. The digital ghost has been caught, but the machinery of espionage grinds on. In the digital shadows, Russian operatives continue their missions. In server rooms across Europe and North America, classified information continues to be stolen. The war continues. The hunt continues. The story of Denis Obresko is the story of our time. The story of how modern conflict is conducted. The story of how national security is lost in the digital realm. The story of an international manhunt that succeeded in capturing one operative. But a story that raises urgent questions about how many more remain in the field. How many more secrets will be stolen? How much more damage will be done before the world wakes up to the reality of modern cyber warfare.